Brigadier General from the U.S. Air Force. He was former deputy military rep to NATO. That's Blaine Holt. You've seen him a million times. I love him, and we love to pick his brain. So we also have, Harley Lippman. Look at that. I love Harley, too. All right, so two of my faves are with us right now. So let's start with this. Trump was talking about tensions in the Middle East a short while ago.
You're asking me?
You can't let a bunch of lunatics have a nuclear weapon, or the world would be in trouble. The world would be in trouble.
So, Harley, you find it pretty difficult to fathom that there's a lot of countries in this world that, and a lot of our allies, so-called allies, that still aren't grasping the need of what was done or what is being done, even as they're watching Iran and their actions.
Yeah, it's a sad commentary on the world, a lack of leadership, a lack of support for basic themes that matter to everyone in the world: freedom of navigation, open waterways. This is what America has gone to war over many times. The War of 1812, we went to war because they were seizing American ships and American sailors. The British were doing that. World War I, unrestricted submarine warfare by the Germans was interfering with freedom of navigation. This is a core principle, and it's unfortunate that nations aren't getting behind the President of the United States and making sure that there's an open waterway, because if you don't make sure that the Straits of Hormuz is open, you will have created a very dangerous precedent. And there are other what we call choke points in the world, like the Strait of Hormuz, where other nations could use it to blackmail shipping companies and tankers that go through and demand a toll or just close it. So it's absolutely essential. And I was happy to hear the report on Newsmax from Secretary of War Hegseth and Marco Rubio that they both said this is unacceptable. So we're all looking and watching to see the United States lead the way to make sure that there is freedom of navigation. And I'm sure General Holt agrees with that.
Yeah, we're not doing this just for U.S. flagged ships. I mean, we're doing this for flagged ships all over the world. Here's what Secretary of War Hegseth said earlier about the plan to guide these ships through the Strait.
This operation is separate and distinct from Operation Epic Fury. Project Freedom is defensive in nature, focused in scope, and temporary in duration, with one mission: protecting innocent commercial shipping from Iranian aggression. American forces won't need to enter Iranian waters or airspace. It's not necessary. We're not looking for a fight. But Iran also cannot be allowed to block innocent countries and their goods from an international waterway.
All right, so General, what's your assessment so far of Operation Freedom?
Oh, it's going so well. When you think about all of the very great complexities in all of this, but we have three main efforts that have to be taken care of. One, Project Freedom. It's working. I can already see on the maritime tracker now we've got a Singaporean, Panamanian flagship. It's making a move through the straits now. So it will come. There's more military action ahead of us, though, because you have an IRGC and a civilian leadership that are turning on each other, trying to make themselves look like strongmen that are still in charge. They're not in charge. And then on the other side, you've got oil wells that have to be rescued for the future of Iran and other countries around the world. And then the Iranian people themselves, which have to begin in earnest their own revolution. How different this outcome could have been had Europe and its allies gone to their own vital interest and stood by us in this with the fertilizer that needed to get out and all of the energy stocks. And then if they had followed President Trump's leadership regarding Ukraine, they could have then negotiated fertilizer deals with Russia, oil and fertilizer deals with China, and Europe wouldn't be even close to being in the pickle it's in. But them, Japan, South Korea, Australia, they're all waiting with bated breath while the United States bears the yoke of this.
Yeah, no, it's incredible what's going on here. And Harley, Israel obviously been a big partner in this from day one. They've been fairly quiet right? I mean, they've basically ceded to the ceasefire. I think they're in lockstep with the U.S. on this. What about, Lebanon? What about that situation?
Well, Lebanon is a great example of modern day colonialism on behalf of Iran. They have literally taken over the country for their own means, not for the benefit of the Lebanese people. The Lebanese people suffer. And that country was called, the France of the Middle East, and Beirut was called the Paris of the Middle East. It was a thriving nation. But since Iran has taken over by way of what we call a proxy, their Hezbollah, they have subjugated the needs of the Lebanese people only to what Iran wants. That's what is called colonialism. That's what imperialism is. And there are people on the left who like to use those words against the United States. But guess what? This is exactly what Iran is applying in that country. And for Israel, it's an existential challenge. It's an existential threat. They want to destroy Israel. A lot of people don't realize that when you think about it. I don't know of any country in the world that is literally fighting for their survival and existence like Israel is. But I want to mention also our other friends and allies, particularly Saudi Arabia, that has been stood by the United States, the other Gulf nations that have used the weapons that we sold them very effectively. A lot of people had questions about it. They were trained well. They stood up. They're helping the United States. They have an east-west pipeline that avoids the Strait of Hormuz. They're coming up with creative solutions. So we have a number of great allies in the region, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and others. And I think we need to build on that and be mindful of who our new reliable friends are and who the people and the countries are that we thought were more reliable friends like Europe. There's a shift taking place now. And it's good for us to be aware as to who the countries are that we need to get closer to.
So, Harley, good point, and I'm going to bridge that over to you, Blaine. So you were part of, you dealt with NATO, right, in one of your roles. So what is the true relationship now with what we've seen NATO not do, I guess, right? I mean, they don't necessarily have an obligation, but the NATO countries. What do you think the relationship is right now between the U.S. and NATO going forward?
I don't think this relationship's been in worse shape since the end of World War II when NATO was born. Vice President Vance came to the first Munich Security Conference. He warned them. It's not just that you're deindustrializing. It's not just that you're not taking care of your own security needs, but that you're rolling up on European and Western values. When we look at the censorship, when we look at turning a blind eye to the crimes against your own people. And then Marco Rubio, our Secretary of State, does the same thing the next year. They wouldn't listen. And now here we are. They never followed President Trump's leadership on the Ukraine-Russia war. There's been no diplomatic efforts there. And now they're in real trouble. And their first selection is to provide preference to their bankers and their financialists that have played both sides of every war forever in the city of London through Lloyd's of London. And Scott Bessent has called that out. Well, they showed us where they're at because they didn't let us use our bases. They impeded progress in getting out of the straits. And now they're doubling down on that. And so we're going to be withdrawing troops from Europe. And it looks like from listening to President Trump in a meaningful way. Does it mean the end of NATO? I'm not going to predict that. But I will say we're going to see a new NATO and a very different NATO and different transatlantic alliance come out of the end of these things.
You have to figure if, God forbid, something did happen to a NATO country, which triggered it, right? Triggered our response,
right,
that we would be there. But now we know necessarily that they will not be there, not necessarily when they have to be, but when they should be. Blaine Holt, Harley Lippman, good to see you.
Take care.
See you too.